Good day and greetings from Self Love Ministry, a ministry that strives and thrives to challenge you within your personal wellness and spiritual fitness. And on this Freedom Friday, God has given me a message. I've been up since 1 o'clock. God's given me a message on this Freedom Friday. This week I've been speaking about transformation, and yesterday He gave me he let me know that I was going to talk about transition of the mind today. But at 1 o'clock, he gave me the message this morning. And transition of the mind. And the title would be, What Do You See? What do you see? What do you see? Then he also shared with me that we go through this thing where we have the battle of the mind, the battle of the mind. The battle within our decisions, the battles within our thoughts, the battles within our choices, and even the battles of the consequences from the choices and the decisions that we make. God began to share with me a couple of things. He began to share with me that creating our own narrative of life can be harmful, it can be unhealthy, and it can be deadly to some. And what do I mean by that? I was sharing with my son this morning before I left out. I was sharing with him how I grew up with the narrative in my head that being raised by my grandparents, that my mother didn't want me. And that same narrative allowed me, as I shared with my father a few days ago, that narrative allowed me to not connect with my sisters and my mom the way that I should since the age of 13. And I'm 49 years old. And I'm now reversing the curse over my life of the narrative that I planted in my head because of how I felt about abandonment, how I felt about rejection, how I felt about being left out and loved, when honestly, I really didn't begin to find out the real story until probably my early 40s. And now I'm at the point of reversing curses, of trying to love different, of trying to just move differently and erase all of the past things because of the narrative that was in my head, because of what I chose to force myself to believe, or what I believe without asking the right questions. I was sharing that story with my son this morning before I left out. God also began to share with me that He gives us the ability to choose and to decide, but He won't push purpose on us. That He will test us, and He will even break us if He needs to get us to the destined area of purpose over our life. And as I was driving, the Holy Spirit took me back to something I mentioned at my conference that I learned from, I believe it was Pastor Jazz, that we are broken before we are blessed. We are broken before we are blessed, God. We're broken before we are blessed. We're broken before we're blessed. He will pull us out of something. He'll separate us. He'll then break us from the things that we're used to. Then He'll bless us. Then He'll use that same blessing as a testimony to encourage, inspire, and motivate others. God began to also share with me that rejection and pride can prevent our growth. Rejection and pride can prevent our growth. He began to explain to me that it's because of rejection and pride that some people are stuck where they are mentally. You have people that want to help you. You have people that can pour into you. God is trying to create connections for redirection. Thank you, Holy Spirit. Connections for redirection. But honestly, you're too stubborn. You're too set in your ways. You're too used to the normal. You're too afraid. You fear change. You fear losing people. You fear what people will say if you go in another direction. God began to share with me this morning that we have to become unafraid to let go and to let Him take control. Because on this journey of transformation, you're going to lose people. He's going to pull you out of harmful and unhealthy environments. People are going to say things. They are going to possibly judge you and have their opinions. But you have to turn to Him for the strength to look past all of those things, even your weaknesses and your insecurities. A lot that He gave me. 2 verses this morning. First one is Romans 12:2, King James Version, how we are transformed by the renewing of our mind. But then He reminded me of Proverbs 3:5-6, King James Version, that says, trust in the Lord with all thine heart and lean not to thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge Him, and He will direct our path. And a lot of us have fallen off mentally, fell into depression. We're suffering from grief. We're feeling hopeless. We feel that we can't do it. We've lost sight. We can't see anything bigger and better and brighter. We don't see ourselves moving from darkness to deliverance. We don't feel like that thing can be lifted off of our life. We don't feel like healing can be brought into our life. We were dealing with so much doubt and shame and unforgiveness and hatred and so many different other things. Past pain and disappointment and hurt. And that was 10 and 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years ago. And you still holding on to it. On this Freedom Friday, I encourage you what God told me, that we must let it go. And we must not be afraid of who we have to let go in the process of letting go. I was also sharing with my son this morning that God began to awaken my eyes that so many times we are afraid to let go. Not understanding that God may be using you in a situation to let go, to bless the person who He is causing you to let go of. Because He needs them to see you go through your transformation to encourage them. Because that may be the only way that they get it. On this morning, I want to encourage somebody that you must let go and you must let God. I was also sharing with my son. I don't know if I shared this with him, but me and God was talking this morning, and I've been posting on Facebook and TikTok and Instagram how August the 17th, how it changed my life. What people didn't know is August 16th, I laid in my bed and I cried. I did a prayer of lifting, and I asked God to lift everything off of me that was ever put on me that I didn't deserve. Every intentional act. Take every spirit, every transfer off of my soul that was brought on me from another man, from another partner. Every spirit that was attached to me that shouldn't be. I did a prayer of lifting. And it wasn't until the next day, hours later, not even 24 hours in church. This is going to be part 1. In church, God lifted that. He lifted that thing. 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 In a matter of hours, He lifted that thing. In a matter of hours, He lifted that thing. This is part 1. I'm going to go into part 2 because I don't want this video to be more than 10 minutes. But He lifted that thing. Stay tuned for part 2.